Welcome to GoPowerCat.com's Friday walkthrough, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. Now, let's head into the studio.
Hey everyone, and welcome in here to the Friday walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody. With me, as always, Monty Spiller, former Kansas State defensive back, here to talk some Kansas State football. Kansas State gets a big win in Boulder, Colorado, 31-28, and now they get set to take on the West Virginia Mountaineers in Morgantown, West Virginia on Saturday night. Monty, we did the post-game show on Sunday. And so if you would like to hear our thoughts on the Colorado game, go back on the Go Power Cat YouTube channel. You can watch that in its entirety. We'll do a little bit of Colorado talk, but I think everybody is so excited to move on. But as we record this, I've had some more time to kind of think about that game at Colorado, Monty, and that's going to go down as probably one of my favorite games that K-State's played in a long time.
I agree for several reasons. Obviously, it was a big game for both us and Colorado because we both understood, another loss, in conference play, it won't ruin your season, but it puts you behind the 8-ball to potentially get into the Big 12 championship. And with the new 12-team playoff, everyone counts, And for us to be in a position that we were in, it was a big win. But, yeah, it was a great environment, leading up to the game. There was a lot of talk about what we could do, what we couldn't do, what to expect out of Colorado, what not to expect out of Colorado, the fanfare, and just the environment in itself. But it definitely was a game that we look forward to, and it did not disappoint because the Cats came out on top.
And you look at what some of these guys did in that game from a pure statistics standpoint. That's something we didn't really talk much about on Sunday. It was more kind of a raw reaction. But Avery Johnson, 15-23 for 224 yards, a touchdown, and the 1 interception. The quarterback run game was pretty much taken out of the playbook after his injury. And on Sunday morning, as we recorded that, I don't think we had any idea of, what his injury was. Turns out it was maybe some kind of a hip bruise along the lines of that. But he came back into the game, and you would have no idea that he left because those statistics, pretty efficient. I mean, that's the thing that strikes me the most is that if you're able to have 224 passing yards on 15 completions, you're doing something right.
Yeah, and it's so easy to for those stat lines to get lost because there was so many different scenarios going on with that game. There was so many different side stories. But yeah, you're correct. He had a heck of a game. A lot of times people don't look at that, considering the fact that he did go out for a few plays, and that's a different storyline with Roberson coming in to fill his shoes, which he did a great job in my opinion. But he had a great game, and you said it before, something about it was his coming out party. Yep. And a lot of kids grew up that game, and not just him. Jace grew up a little bit, and also our O-line, I feel like, grew up in the run game. And then the world, we knew already, but the rest of the world was introduced to DJ Giddens. So it was a lot going on there. But, yeah, the stats were pretty amazing from the quarterback to the rushing game to Jace's receiving game. There was a lot to be had and a lot to be excited about moving forward.
Jace Brown, 6 catches for 121 yards, 2 touchdowns. DJ Giddens, 25 carries for 182 rushing yards. Colorado hadn't allowed a single 100-yard rusher or a 100-yard receiver. Both of those streaks ended on Saturday night for Kansas State. DJ Giddens, we sit here every week and we talk about how good this kid is, and somehow he continues to get better. You think back to his freshman year, Monty, when Kansas State won the Big 12 championship and he was Deuce Vaughn's number 2. He was the Thunder. He was the power guy who was going to come in and run between the tackles. And I think we both thought, wow, he's really good. If he does that next year, he's going to be a really good running back. And then last year, he did that and a little bit more. He started to add some more tools to his toolbox. And then this year, when Treshaun Ward, who's having great success at Boston College, transferred there, everybody kind of said, okay, it's DJ. Oh, here comes Dylan Edwards. Oh, well, maybe DJ, maybe not so much. But you know what? DJ has been everything that any K-State fan could possibly have asked for because he just finds a way to get better. Those moves that he has. DJ Giddens, people don't realize this. He's over 6 foot. He's probably closer to 6'1", and he's a big running back. That's a guy who's over 200 pounds. And for him to run away from guys and make guys miss the way that he does, you just don't see that from college running backs.
No, it's not very common that you got a guy with those attributes, size, speed, wiggle in him also. And not to mention, he can catch the ball off the backfield. And obviously a couple of teams, Tulane and Colorado, have figured out what they didn't figure out. Yeah. But now they know you got to guard him out the backfield because K-State has had success with that wheel route. Everybody forgets about him, and all of a sudden he leaks out and he's open and he does damage whenever they get the ball to him, be it passing or running. He's special. You know, we talked about it in earlier episode where how there's so many good backs in the Big 12, and there are. Don't get me wrong. And DJ wasn't one of the top 3 that the preseason polls talked about. And honestly, you know, some guys say it doesn't bother them. I honestly believe it didn't bother DJ because him being the kind of guy that he is, he's like, you know what? It is what it is. I can't control that. I'm going to do what I do. And right now, him doing what he does is showing up, and he has everybody's attention, not just the Big 12.
It's so fun to watch because every week he does something different. Like putting Shiloh Sanders in the turf, leave that aside. Like he dropped that wheel route in the early part of the game. They came back, K-State said, you know what, we know you're going to catch it. And Colorado didn't even bother to guard him, which, by the way, for being a defensive back, I was very surprised at how many busting coverage Colorado had defensively for Deion Sanders' team because they looked confused a few times, and that swing route to DJ was one of those times, but K-State took advantage of it. DJ caught the ball, which he didn't do previously. I've only ever seen him drop the ball one time, and that was literally the one time he did it was in that Colorado game. Obviously, turned around more than made up for it. As far as the defense goes, Shedeur Sanders, I think that there's no denying that he's special. 34 of 40, 388 yards, 3 touchdowns to the 1 interception. But again, negative 29 yards rushing, and a lot of that was due to sack yardage. I thought the defense played well, and I think honestly, going up against a quarterback like that and receivers, even with Jimmy Horn and Travis Hunter out, going against those talented receivers is going to help prepare this Kansas State defense for what they have coming up the rest of the season.
You're absolutely correct on that. And it's one of those things where going into the game, we were concerned about Jimmy Horn. We were concerned about Travis Hunter, and for good reason. And then we were concerned about Shedeur. He got his numbers. We know he's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, not just the Big 12. We know that. And a lot of times people who are not fans of Colorado want to discredit the young man. You can't be that way. The guy's good. He's a quality quarterback, and he will be playing on Sundays one day also, not because of his last name, but because he deserves to be playing on Sundays. But I will say you are correct with our secondary seeing that skill level because their second-team guys and third-team guys are just as good as a lot of other teams' starters. And when they come in, they have speed to burn because when Deion recruits, he recruits speed, i.e. Dylan Edwards. So he knows what he's doing. But the fact that we had so many guys, unfortunately, we had guys go down with injury, but we forced some young guys into playing, and they didn't really shy away from the challenge. And so they got good quality game experience in a high-level, high competitive game that mattered and not just a throwaway game. So that's good for us, like you said, moving forward in the future, guys who may be called into duty, they'll be ready, and they won't be shook for that pressure. So it was a positive for us to be able to see that on a highly competitive game in the limelight of a ESPN nationally broadcast game.
No doubt. And as we kind of take a bigger step back and look at this Kansas State team, 5-1 at the halfway point. I think, as I kind of said this last week, but I feel like they're right on par. Monty, the last time K-State started 5-1, they won the Big 12 championship game, and that was in 2022. And so it seems like whenever K-State, they're starting to kind of get it rolling. Now, we can go back and look at some of those previous games like Tulane. They were like, oh, they found a way to win. It wasn't very pretty. BYU, obviously, we know what happened. Oklahoma State, hey, maybe they figured out. Colorado, hey, they had to play well to win that game. Credit Colorado because Colorado played really well. They played really well. And K-State just played better. And so I think now we're starting to see, okay, we still haven't seen K-State maybe play the best that they can play, but they're starting to get there. Yep. And that's encouraging because you never want to peak too early. I mean, Jerome Tang talks about it on the basketball side all the time. You want to peak in March. You want to be at your best in March. And with K-State, if they can be at their best here in the next 3 to 4 weeks and find a way to just get these wins, this season could be really special. Yeah,
I agree. And a lot of times when that BYU game happened, me included, I didn't jump ship. I didn't panic, but I was like, guys are better than this, but fortunately enough, it was a road game in a hostile environment, night game where it's tough to play. And it was early. And you know what? If you're going to lose early, especially with the way the system is set up now. You can go undefeated and lose the last 2 games of the season, and then the voters, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you're going to lose early on the road, and the good news is BYU continues to roll, so that's a quality loss if you would look at it that way. But I'm with you. I think K-State is slowly, gradually figuring it out in every aspect of the game. Defensive-wise, we're getting depth. Offensive-wise, we're becoming a dual threat offense. We can pass the ball and run the ball. Our pass game struggled a little bit, but the last game against Colorado, it kind of opened up some. Our tight ends are getting more involved. We're healthy now. People have to honor the run now, so you can't just really put 2 high safeties. You got to bring your safety down. And if a safety's down, you can exploit the pass even more so. Defensive-wise, D-line has been good. Linebackers are good. Secondary struggles still a little bit, but they're getting quality reps in, and they're getting better. And I think Coach Klanderman will figure out the best group of guys to have back there when we do hit that stretch of difficult games before we get into closer to the playoff system. But K-State's in a great position right now to make a run, and I like the way we're looking. So I'm very optimistic about us as a team and fortunate that we are healthy for the most part at this point of the season.
So from a secondary standpoint, because I think you bring up a good point there, the live game reps, and K-State wants to develop depth, and they've done that at a lot of spots. Defensive line, linebacker on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive line, I think they've developed some depth. The receiver, they're rotating guys in and out. But from the secondary standpoint, I'm kind of curious your take on this because, you know, I feel like sometimes, and we all know those guys who have been thrown into the fire maybe before they were ready and they got exposed a little bit. But with K-State, it feels like those guys tend to figure it out. They get thrown into the fire. Maybe it lasts for 2 to 3 weeks, but then they come out on the other side and they're a lot better football player. I mean, in a way, could those injuries on Saturday be a good thing for this secondary?
It was a blessing in disguise, man. I'm telling you what, as a former DB myself, I don't think people really understand the pressure that's on you because coaches tell you, you are the last line of defense. As a D lineman, there's not as much stress because, yeah, if the guy gets to the line, you got the linebackers and the secondary. As a linebacker, you have the secondary behind you. So, yeah, you can make a mistake, but you got your DBs behind you to potentially stop the run. If you get beat as a DB, everybody's going to see it. You're going to get exposed. So, a lot of times, some guys play a little more tentative than they should because they don't want to make a mistake and get beat deep. And then you get some guys who you're like, you know what? I'm going to take a risk, and the risk is better than the reward or vice versa, and go for it. But as the game slows down for you as a DB, as you see more reps, live action, when you're watching film and that translates over to real game action, it definitely slows down and you trust your eyes and you know what's coming. And at that point, when you guys are on one accord as a secondary, you're communicating, you understand what you have, you play so much better. And you're correct. Young guys getting reps. So if somebody were to go down, you can plug a guy in and not worry about having any letdown at that position and keep rolling. And K-State has been really good about that in the past. And I feel like we're getting closer to that as the season goes on.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where as a young player, sure, you feel like you're at a Division I school, you're playing for K-State, you made the travel roster, you're playing on some special teams.
Yep.
But until you really get thrown out there, man, like you have no idea what to expect because then Jason Ritz will take for example, a true freshman cornerback from Minneapolis gets thrown into the fire. He plays special teams the whole year. Hey, buddy, your first real snaps are going to be against Shadur Sanders on a national TV at 12 a.m. Central Time. Like, good luck. Like, have fun. And you know what? I think he's going to learn from that, and I think he's going to be better. As we kind of wrap up this first half, I want to get your thoughts on the Big 12 as a whole, because I feel like this year, I mean, we've been doing this show for 3 years now. I feel like this is the most fun I've had watching other Big 12 games because you just have no idea what to expect on a game-to-game basis.
No, honestly, where we're at this point, I wouldn't have guessed it. I'm not going to lie. The fact K-State's top 4 or 5, yes. Iowa State undefeated, I wouldn't have guessed it. BYU undefeated, absolutely not. Texas Tech undefeated, you couldn't pay me to believe that. But that's the case. But I will say, I don't think anybody will finish the regular season, undefeated in conference play. It's just too tough week in and week out to do it. BYU has had the benefit of playing tougher teams at home and have yet to be sent on the road to play a tougher opponent. That will come. Iowa State has been kind of the dark horse of the Big 12. It's not the most flashy name. It's not the most sought out the name, but they've done it in a way where they consistently find a way to win. The running game is stellar. The quarterback is solid. He won't kill you. Defense finds a way to make plays with them. And then Texas Tech being in Lubbock, some of their games have been later. A lot of people haven't been following them, but they got some special players too. Now, I think they end up with 2 losses conference-wise moving forward, but it's still a lot of football to be played. And the teams are in the middle, bottom tier, and it scares me because you get a KU, for instance. They haven't won a conference game, I don't think this year. They won their first game, and that's it.
Yep.
But they still possess the team to upset a lot of people. And I guarantee that's probably their goal moving forward, especially K-State.
Yeah.
So we're not taking them lightly. They're a quality team still. They haven't had the luck falling in. But the Big 12 is wide open. Wide open. And some people say other conferences, top to bottom, wide open. That may be true. But I think as a whole, the Big 12 probably is the most wide open conference there is.
And that's what makes it so fun. I mean, that's what makes it so fun. There's no more fun conference in America to watch college football than the Big 12. And we know one thing about the Big 12. It's that winning on the road is tough in this conference. And guess what? K-State has the opportunity to go on the road once again on Saturday night to take on West Virginia. We will talk about that game, preview the Wildcats and the Mountaineers, and we come back right here on the Friday Walkthrough.
It's time to take a break for our sponsors. We'll be back with more from GoPowerCat.com.
Nestled in the heart of beautiful and historic Council Grove, Kansas, Riverbank Brewing is the perfect place to stop before or after the game. Riverbank Brewing, located in downtown Council Grove.
Now let's head back to the show for more K-State sports coverage from GoPowerCat.com.
Welcome back in here to the Friday Walkthrough. I'm Cole Carmody with Monty Spiller, previewing Kansas State and West Virginia. As always, shout out Riverbank Brewing for sponsoring this episode and every episode of the Friday Walkthrough. Monty, Kansas State comes into this game over West Virginia, ranked number 17th in the country at 5-1. West Virginia, 3-3, but 2-1 in conference. An interesting start to the season for the Mountaineers. This game has so many storylines that I cannot wait to talk about, but after kind of watching some West Virginia, what are your initial thoughts on the Mountaineers?
Well, first of all, kudos to them because they probably have had one of the toughest schedules in the Big 12. I'm sorry, I don't think people realize how difficult their schedule has been. And for them to be where they're at, that says a lot about them as a ball team and their coaching staff as well. And K-State and West Virginia has a history of battling. You know, it's one of those things, you don't take them lightly. And when you go to Morgantown, you understand their fans, they can be over, but their fans, they're going to show up and let you know that they support their team. And no matter when or where, they make me nervous. Now, I will say, hallelujah, it's a 6:30 game.
Not 9:15. No 9:15s. Right.
That's a plus for us. But no, and I know Coach Klieman will have the boys ready, but they understand the challenge they present. West Virginia, the quarterback is dynamic. If he gets loose and he gets going early, he is tough to stop. So we have to bottle him up right away. Don't give him any confidence, because if he gets any confidence, he is a baller. He's one of those guys where they can be down 14 points and he'll find a way to win. So we need to bottle him up. But K-State's strength, the run game, I feel like is the factor going into that game.
Yeah, it's an interesting matchup because West Virginia's 3-3, like I said at the top, but the teams they've lost to are combined 18-0.
Yeah.
And so they've lost to Pitt, they've lost to Penn State, and they've lost to Iowa State. Those teams are all undefeated. Now, Penn State's a really good football team. I don't know about Pitt and Iowa State, but credit them. They haven't lost. And so you can't take anything away from that. But I mentioned some of the storylines, Bonnie, and I want to talk about this because Neal Brown is such a fascinating story with West Virginia, because when Kansas State hired Chris Klieman, there was a lot of rumors that maybe they were looking at Neal Brown. And I think Neal Brown's a fine coach. I think Chris Klieman has proven to be more successful at this level. But there was some comments that Neal Brown made to the media on Monday about how the fans were frustrated with the losing, and did he have a message to the fans? And he had said, well, I hope they enjoyed the game on Saturday. Like, it was a beautiful weather. If you're going to the game for entertainment, it was a fun game to watch. Like, it sounded like he was making excuses for losing and asking for fan support. But, Monty, there's a lot of disgruntled fans in Morgantown because this West Virginia team has some talent. It's just they have not been able to consistently put back-to-back weeks together. They look great against Oklahoma State, and then they lay an egg at home against Iowa State. So there's just no consistency with this group. I think that falls on the coaches. I don't really know. I think there's talent on this team, but at the same time, it's like, how good are they? There's just a strange dynamic surrounding this game.
Well, there was a lot of expectations for this team preseason. They were picked by a lot of publications to be the dark horse of the Big 12. They had College Game Day there early in the year, so there was a lot of expectations. So I think the fans bought into that, which I get it. As a fan, I would too. And then when you don't succeed to what the expectations were, there's going to be a lot of frustration, and I understand why, because do you have the players to be a quality top-tier Big 12 team? Absolutely. It hadn't panned out that way. But like you alluded to before, their 3 losses are teams that are undefeated, and that says a lot. I'm not saying that they shouldn't have won some of those games, but had opportunity to win, but that's just kind of the straw you pull. But it's one of those things where you have to find a way, and you and I both know when there's high expectations from fans, alumni, donors, especially with the NIL going on, is what have you done for me lately? And if you ain't producing, they get unhappy. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you can be Nick Saban, you can be a Hall of Famer. If you ain't producing, what have you done for me lately? So I understand the frustration from the fans.
And Neil Brown, the statistics against top 25 teams, simply put, are not very good. West Virginia has lost 8 straight games versus teams ranked inside the top 25. Neil Brown in his career at West Virginia is 1-16 over top 25 teams. The last 8 straight games, their margin of defeat has been by an average of 18 points. So, like, again, I don't say all those numbers because at the end of the day, it means absolutely nothing for this game. But the trends show you that when West Virginia has a big-time opponent that they're about ready to play, I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's a schematics thing. Again, I don't think it's a talent thing because I think this team has talent. But for whatever reason, they have not been able to rise to the occasion. I think that for K-State, West Virginia losing the game that they did against Iowa State is actually beneficial, because if West Virginia would have won that game, well, then this game looks completely different. They're 4-2. They're undefeated in conference. Everything they want is still in front of them. If they beat K-State and run the table, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game. But realistically, they're playing for their season right now, and they might be playing for their coach. And so, that's good for K-State, because maybe some of that apathy is set in amongst the team. But there's also desperation there on the other end. And so I think for K-State, what they need to do is they just need to worry about themselves. And if there's one thing that Chris Klieman does really well, it's that he helps his team block out the outside noise.
Yeah, K-State has a culture, and that's been used a lot to understand that it's about us. A lot of times when you have situations as we do for this West Virginia game, there's so many storylines. But K-State and Coach Klieman and Coach Snyder included has done a phenomenal job of focusing on us. We do what we do and let the cards fall where they may. Let them fall with it. We're going to be okay. And I feel like us coming out the big win against Colorado, our guys understand what we can do. And traveling to Morgantown at a 6:30 game, we are on a mission. It's 1-0. And we don't care about what happened in West Virginia. You know what? Like I said before, it's one of those things. You talked about the numbers. It's facts. And I don't care. And I was saying facts over feelings. I don't care. It's factual. Whenever they play a quality top 25 opponent, they can't figure out a way to win. And I'm not dogging the coach because I'm pretty sure he's a quality coach, but it has to be schemes. Are they getting our coach? I don't know. But the numbers don't lie. Yeah. The numbers don't lie. And I think K-State will go in with an attitude is like, yeah, we beat Colorado, but that's not our season. Right. That's a win. That's not our highlight. We got a lot more involved. And for us to get to the goal, the Big 12 championship, and then get to the college playoffs, we got to beat y'all. And y'all are our focus right now, and this is what we're going to do.
It feels like K-State's very good about focusing on today. They're very good about – they have a big long-term goal, but they know who's in their way. And unfortunately for West Virginia, it might be one of those things. They might be catching K-State at the wrong time, because I have a feeling that win over Colorado is going to really build some momentum for K-State. And unfortunately for West Virginia, it might come at their dispense. So you look at this West Virginia team, Jaheim White is the leading rusher. They will have 2 running backs, Jaheim White and CJ Donaldson, who I am a huge fan of. They just can't seem to get him going the last 3 years, a big-time running back there. But Garrett Green, the quarterback you mentioned, this guy's a gamer, man, and he just never seems to quit. You can hit him a million times, and he's going to get right back up. So defensively, I think the game plan for K-State needs to be you have to be able to stop the run, because West Virginia is not going to be a team that throws the ball. You look at their stats, they're about 50-50 as far as rushing and throwing, rushing and receiving yards. But, I mean, I firmly believe that if K-State stops the run and they make West Virginia one-dimensional, they're going to have a really good chance to slow down this West Virginia offense.
No, Cole, you are absolutely correct. And actually this game plays on both sides of the ball, plays into our strengths. Our secondary has been the weak link of the defense per se, but our run defense has been pretty good. And the fact that West Virginia doesn't throw the ball really well compared to what we've seen before allows us to stack the box. And if you force the quarterback into throwing, that's not his strong suit. He's a good thrower, don't get me wrong, but he's better with moving the pocket, rolling the pocket. But if we put pressure on him, he doesn't throw great balls sometimes. Now, our linebackers are all athletic, and we're deep at linebacker. Our D-line, they do a really good job of containing, staying home, and being assignment sound. So I think they will struggle. West Virginia will try to establish a run, and they will have some success, but I don't think they will stick with the run because they'll figure out you can't keep up with a K-State offense, vice versa. We're just running the ball, and that plays into our hand. And on the flip side, we will impose our will as an offense and offensive line, get DJ loose. And I think Dylan is going to have a big game from the running back spot this week, just because he's shifty. They struggle against the run. And if you give him a crease, he can get going. Both of our backs can. But I feel like he's going to break out even more so this week. But, yes, defensive-wise, we do a good job stopping the run. We're okay.
I feel like West Virginia's defense is susceptible to the big plays. I think back to a game against Penn State earlier in the year where it was a pretty close game up until halftime. And, Penn State just absolutely threw a bomb in the half, and that pretty much, sealed the deal on that game. But, I feel really confident in K-State heading into this game. I mean, defensively, I think that they are going to shut down this West Virginia offense. And I believe that for a number of reasons, but mostly because – well, you're going up against a quarterback who doesn't hold a candle to Shedeur Sanders. You're going up against an offense in general who probably is one of, I don't want to say the worst that you've seen so far, but the offense is more comparable to what Oklahoma State was going to try and do than what K-State's seen at all the rest of the season. I mean, they do not have the playmakers on the outside that Tulane had. They don't have the playmakers that even, I guess you could say Oklahoma State had. Oklahoma State had some playmakers, and so did Colorado, obviously. And so I think that this will be one of those games where K-State will be able to kind of take a step back and say, okay, we're going to worry about what we do. We're going to worry about our fundamentals. We're not going to change what we do because we're going up against this offense. We're going to make this offense change what they do. And offensively for K-State, you mentioned it, man. Like, they're going to run the football. And if you can't stop it, it's coming all night. And if you can, all right, we'll mix it in. We'll mix in some throws with Avery Johnson if you're Connor Riley. But K-State's going to run the football, and if you can't stop it, it's going to be a long night.
I agree. But I will tell you this, and West Virginia has a lot of pride. They are not one of these programs that's going to lay down. And you mentioned it earlier about they're playing for their coach, and they understand what's going on. So I do caution our defense to be aware of trick plays. Mm-hmm. I feel like West Virginia is going to bring out everything they can to keep this game close. Onside kicks, fake punts, you name it. They're going to throw out everything you can. And I think they're doing it, to win the game, but to show the fan base, hey, we're trying to get better. We're trying to find any way possible to get a win because we want you guys to be happy for one, but we want our coach to remain here, And I think K-State will be aware of that and be ready for it. But I wouldn't be surprised come Saturday to see a lot of trickery, a lot of different formations that we have not seen from West Virginia at this point.
It feels like the opposite of Colorado. Colorado came into this game with the utmost arrogance. It was obvious when you saw them warming up. They thought that they were going to roll K-State. And I feel like West Virginia is going to be the exact opposite. They're going to give K-State so much respect that their game plan is going to be different. And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. As we wrap up the show, Monty, let's go ahead and get into our predictions. One guy to watch before I get into this is Brendan Mott. Brendan Mott had 3 sacks and was Defensive Player of the Week in the Big 12 the last time K-State was in Morgantown. That was a 41-28 victory for the Cats. I think Brendan Mott has a really big day for K-State on Saturday night. Monty, I will go first with my prediction. We were both fairly close with our predictions on Saturday. I had an 8-point win. You had a 7-point win. Ended up being a 3-point win for Kansas State. I haven't fully made this decision. We're recording this a little bit early this week. I haven't fully made my decision on the margin of victory. Like, I look at all the numbers. It's so hard to predict a 2-score game in the Big 12 because the games are so close, especially when you're playing a team on the road. But, Monty, I think K-State wins this game by 2 touchdowns. I just – everything is there for Kansas State, and I'm going to take K-State to win 34-20. I think we see another great offensive showing, and I don't even know if it'll be that close. I think West Virginia is going to get desperate at the end of the game, and I think K-State wins this game 2 touchdowns. I could see it being close, but honestly, I could also see this being a blowout. It just really depends on how much energy K-State comes out with. If they come out with the energy they came out with on Saturday, I think they're going to have a really good chance to just kind of impose their will and manhandle this West Virginia team.
I'm with you on that. I think after K-State as a team, I think they got the win against Colorado, and they were just like, oh, okay, we're past that. Let's refocus, and let's do what we do. And I think they're going to Morgantown with this attitude. Like you said, let's impose our will. A lot of people counted us out after we lost to BYU, and they wanted to be like, you know what, K-State's okay, but they don't scare us. And we're going to show people like, hey, that wasn't a fluke last Saturday that you saw. And I think K-State goes to Morgantown. They keep it close early, but I think we pull away and end up winning 45-17.
You know what? We've seen that before. Go back to 2012 with Colin Klein, Tyler Lockett, Geno Smith. That was supposed to be a really good West Virginia team. K-State went in there and waxed them. Either way, I think this is going to be a fun game. I think K-State has a great chance to win, as do you. But you know what? It's going to be a blast, Monty. I cannot wait to watch this game on Saturday night, 6:30 on Fox, national TV, once again for Kansas State. We'll be watching the game. Make sure you are. If you're going out to Morgantown, have fun. I've heard they like their moonshine out there, so just stop by some tailgates. They'll be a little bit nicer than Colorado fans. That's the word on the street. But if you're watching from home like the rest of Kansas State Nation, enjoy the game wherever you may be, and we will talk to you next Friday.
Thank you for watching the Friday Walkthrough, sponsored by Riverbank Brewing. This has been a GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street production.